They are aware of the change and believe that they have arrived. The idea that a single flash of awareness may destroy a lifetime's worth of delusion is rather astounding. Imagine for a moment that a single flash of insight could reverse decades of programming. Exactly this is the truth. In most cases, people do not wake up. Everything they taste is waking. They brush against it as if it were a dream, yet they are unable to stop themselves from catching a whiff of freedom that is born on the breeze and disappears as soon as they make an effort to follow it. A common mistake that people make is that they confuse the opening with the change. It was at first glance that startling fall of the ego, that unsettling fracture in the reality that they once held to, gives the impression that it is the truth, mostly due to the fact that they are starting to realize that everything they have ever believed was a lie. Then, however, the panic sets in. It's not the fear of waking up that's terrifying. It's the fear of what comes after that, mostly due to the fact that when you start to wake up, you are not entering a state of joy. You are about to enter a raging fire. You are about to enter the pandemonium that represents everything that you have buried. You are reawakening the aspects of yourself that you have been working so hard to disregard. And for the vast majority of individuals, that is intolerable. They make a retreat. They crave the familiar comforts of their past. They repaint the prison and refer to the process as healing. As a result, they continue to be confined, not because they never started the voyage in the first place, but rather because they left when the reality demanded too much of them. While they desired the light, they did not want the heat. The only thing they desired was awareness, not accountability. They desired a change that did not need any sacrifice. In addition, there is the wound that the modern soul has, which is the belief that insight is sufficient. We were cautioned by Carl Jung that people will do anything, regardless of how ludicrous it may be. Avoid confronting their own inner self. Being awakened does not mean that pain is over. It is the beginning of the kind that is meant to be, that which cleanses and cleanses, the kind that eliminates the false self, the persona, and the roles that you played in order to survive, the kind that shatters the identity that you were trained to wear like armor that now chokes you when you try to wear it. When they reach this point, the majority of people stop at the edge of the flames. After sensing the pain, they decide to go back. It is the unraveling that they fear. They are afraid of losing control, yet they fail to recognize that the unraveling is the source of their dread. Will allow them to be free. The real awakening is not something that happens. A disintegration has taken place. It is the gradual and excruciating disintegration of the framework that you constructed around the void that exists within you. A ray of light that is falling from the heavens is not what it appears to be. The experience is like a journey into the darkest parts of your own soul. The act of confronting your shadow, the aspects of yourself that you said you would never become, the cravings that you refused, and the agony that you repressed to such an extent that it morphed into your personality, is what it means to encounter your shadow. In addition, here is the paradox. Jung was able to comprehend the shadow is not your enemy, it is your gateway. However, in order to go through it, you must first be consumed. You must become the thing that you fear before you can transcend it. The majority of people, when they see the shadow, run away. This is how they justify it. It is given a spiritual touch. Despite the fact that they recite the appropriate literature, light the appropriate candles, and speak the appropriate affirmations, they do not descend. This is not a surrendering act, because giving up is synonymous with death. A death of the known, a death of the mask, and a death of the illusions that the ego has created. They desire the rising without the burial of the deceased. Their desire is to be born again without having to first die. However, without the crucifixion, there is no possibility of resurrection. In the absence of annihilation, change fails. As a result, they construct a new prison that is more aesthetically pleasing, adorned with spiritual language and a false sense of humility. Nevertheless, it is still a cage, due to the fact that they have not confronted their unconscious on a fundamental level. They have not accepted responsibility for the darkness that they have created. Even now, they continue to put on a show for love, continue to conceal themselves in order to be accepted and continue to delegate their truth to an outside authority. To the naked eye, they appear to be awake, while wearing a new costume, sleepwalking. This is something that the soul is able to see through, and it waits patiently and painfully for the moment when they will have the courage to go deeper. Jung was well aware of the fact that the unconscious has no rest. The things that you want to avoid do not vanish. It is a fair. It remains silent until it discovers a means by which it can explode. Furthermore, when it occurs, it frequently destroys all that you have constructed on erroneous foundations. This is the reason why a significant number of people who start the awakening process undergo emotional, psychological, and spiritual collapse, since their external existence was constructed on an identity that had never been a part of their fundamental nature. In addition, as the soul starts to move, it causes everything that is not in harmony with it to tremble vigorously. This is not a form of discipline. This exemplifies grace in its most horrific manifestation. If you stay comfortable in a falsehood, the soul will not allow you to do so. Your ability to numb yourself will be taken away from you as a result of this. It is the toxic relationship, the hollow ambition, the desire for approval, and the addiction to distraction that are all contributing factors. In addition, this nakedness, this annihilation of the sacred, has the sensation of death because it is real. Nevertheless, it is the sole way to experience rebirth. Still, when they are confronted with this collapse, the majority of individuals interpret it as failure. They are of the opinion that something has gone on. Instead than focusing on how they feel, they try to find a solution. In an effort to escape the stillness and to avoid being with what is, they grab for their tools, their gurus, their rituals, and anything else that can break the silence. As a result, they fail to recognize the exact purpose of awakening, which is to become sufficiently empty so that something genuine might emerge. This is not more information or more accomplishments. Rather, it is presence, truth, and completeness. Furthermore, this is not something that can be taught. It is something that must be lived. There is no way around it. It is something that must be gained in. When no one is watching and no one can save you, you are said to be experiencing the dark night of the soul. Those who are able to go through this fire and continue walking are the only ones who will really begin to comprehend what it means to awaken. Becoming awake is not a passing fad. This is not a form of identification. As a teardown, a return, and a reckoning, it is a process. You are required to give up everything, particularly the aspects of yourself that you are currently clinging to. Your illusions, your pride, and your performance are all being asked for by it. It requires you to address the archetypes that are held within you, such as the tyrant, the addict, and the wounded child. The person who manipulates others, not to pass judgment on them, but rather to incorporate them into your life and examine how they have modified it, to win back the energy that has been stifled by feelings of shame, guilt, and suppression. It was Jung's teaching that individuation, or the process of becoming entire, necessitates the integration of opposites. He emphasized that the union of light and shadow is more important than the elimination of darkness. The sacred union and the hidden road are both found here. This is not a glamorous endeavor. It does not have widespread acceptance. It is not a problem. It is a cruel act. It is unprocessed. The fact that it compels you to become genuine is what makes it sacred. Moreover, this authenticity symbolizes the first step in achieving genuine freedom. That is not the kind that results from liberation from the outside world. Rather, it is the kind that emerges when you stop betraying yourself in order to earn love. You will start to live as a soul rather than a role, and you will start to speak from the quiet that lies within you when you stop shrinking to fit in and when you stop seeking permission to exist. And everything that is not true starts to disappear without a trace. You will lose people, your dreams will fade away, and previous versions of yourself will plead to be brought back to life. Now, if you continue to be faithful to the fire, to the inner, with the knowledge that you will not be silent, you will emerge, not merely woken, but transformed through the experience. As a result, I am about to tell you this, not as a cautionary tale, but rather as an invocation. Do not halt at the threshold if you sense that you are beginning to awaken. In the event that the illusions are destroyed, do not go back. Don't be afraid of the flames. Just step into it. Allow it to consume everything that goes against the truth. Allow it to reveal to you who you truly are, that is beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear, and beneath the story that you have been told. It was not in your nature to be approved of. You weren't born to forget things. On the other hand, remembering is going back to the person you left behind in order to survive, in reference to the truth that existed within you prior to the world telling you who you should be. It is not your purpose to put up a show. You're not supposed to be a pleaser. It is not your purpose to conform to a mold that was never intended to accommodate your spirit. If you want to become whole, you are here, and suffering is necessary for completeness. Truth is necessary for it. It is necessary to have a love that is so strong that it will not allow you to satisfy it for half a lifetime. It is not because they are weak that the majority of people remain trapped, due to the fact that they are terrified of their own strength. They have a fear of what will occur if they cease acting as if nothing is happening. The silence that will ensue once they have finished performing is something that they are terrified of. However, that silence, that profound echoing silence, is not empty, but it is silence. This is the presence. The sound you hear is your spirit returning to its home. Everything that is fake is put to death there, and everything that is real is born there. Stay in that place, pay attention, give up, and allow yourself to become the truth that you have been looking for all along. Have no intention of going back, away for the past. You have been reduced to ash, not because it was no longer significant, but rather because it fulfilled its function. Because of it, you are here, whereas this is where the majority of folks pause. Exiles who are afraid of the price of returning to their own souls. They are on the verge of awakening and standing on the brink of awakening. The truth has shown them what is required of them. Rather than words or intentions, it was blood, humility, and the complete and utter disintegration of everything that had previously made them feel like they were significant. To remind us, Jung emphasizes that awakening is not about transforming into something new. Remembering who you were before the event is the key to success. People told you what you should be. This is the voyage that takes one deep and into the temples of the self that have been forgotten, where quiet reigns and no one applauds. When they eventually get close to that silence, the majority of people experience a panic attack. The quiet, in their opinion, indicates that something is awry. However, the contrary is true. It is a sign that something holy is at last beginning to take hold. The inability to adequately express something, a thing that cannot be sold or bought and sold off. To finally breathe after being buried alive under years of deception. It is you, your essence, that is finally breathing. However, here is the reality. Nobody is interested in doing it. Say that the silence will disrobe you completely. It will make you feel lost, disoriented, and abandoned. And this is where the mind makes an effort to protect you by luring you back to the familiar, to the rules, to the structures, and to the self that you experienced in the past when it was functioning well. But this self is unable to travel down this route. This self was never a genuine being. It was a shield, a disguise, and a protection mechanism. In addition, if you put it back on, the soul will once again become quiescent. The reason for this is not wrath, but rather respect. Why? Because it is aware that you are not yet prepared. The soul is on the lookout for bravery. Courage, not comfort or assurance, is what is required. The naked, quivering fortitude to let go of all that isn't real within oneself. As a result, the majority of individuals remain confined. Their goal is to make the shift appear to be growth. Genuine development, on the other hand, frequently takes the form of a sense of devastation, the demolition of assurance, the shattering of conviction, and the loneliness of becoming. Indeed, it is a lonely experience due to the fact that waking is a journey of shedding rather than accumulating. Identities are shed by you. There's a loss of relationships. You let go of dreams that belong to a version of yourself that was merely attempting to preserve your existence, flourish in life. And as you shed, you experience a sense of nakedness, invisible and misunderstood. On the other hand, this is the womb of rebirth that is essential, the location where everything that isn't necessary is put to death so that something genuine can be born. In his talk, Jung discussed individuation, which is the process of becoming complete by integrating all of the components of the self that have been divided. This includes the parts that are unpleasant, the portions that are selfish, the parts that are needy, the parts that are jealous, bitter, furious, and humiliated. Moreover, this integration is the most holy job that you will ever perform in your life. Temples are not the places where it is done. It takes place in the chaos that is life. Within the context of your relationships, your responses, your heartbreaks, and your time spent alone. Due to the fact that it does not garner applause, the majority of people avoid this work. Confrontation is likely to result. Rest is brought about by it. It is a source of mirrors. If, on the other hand, you're able to stand in front of that mirror while shaking but remaining unwavering, you will start to perceive the shape of your soul. And once you have seen it, there is no way to unsee it. That is the point at which the metamorphosis actually starts. The shadow that used to terrify you is now serving as your most trusted instructor. You're now able to feel the anguish that once broke you back, a gateway. The void that used to torment you is now a sacred space for you to move through. As a result of your lack of fear of the dark, you have successfully navigated through it. You have persisted in it. The secrets of it have been revealed to you. Moreover, it has revealed the truth to you. It is impossible to break you. You are buried beneath the roles that you play, beneath the indoctrination that you suffer from, and beneath the intense desire to be liked. And now that you have stopped running, now that you have stopped dealing with your reality, the soul is able to ascend as something that is not new, but rather as something that is both ancient and eternal, something that indestructible. What it means to awaken is not to flee from the world, but rather to finally confront it with all of you present. This is what it means to awaken. There are no disguises, no armor, and no excuses, just the truth and the soul. Simply having the unwavering and unshakable knowledge that you are here for something that is genuine. It is not anything that is remarkable or that makes you fall in love. Rather, it is something that makes you feel at home in your bones, something that whispers yes in the silence, and something that does not require comprehension in order to be lived. It is this freedom that the majority of people are terrified of. The liberation that comes with the realization that you no longer require permission to exist. A point in time when you no longer betray yourself in order to belong. When you stop seeking approval to be who you already are and instead choose to be yourself. And so it is that you move inward rather than forth. Taking each step brings you closer to the truth that you had previously avoided. When you look behind the debris of your previous life, you discover that your inner child is still weeping. You come across the hurt lover who is still in pain from the betrayals that were never voiced out loud. The parts of yourself that you have called too much, too sensitive, or too broken are revealed to you, and you come to the realization that they were never flaws. That was the part of you that was closest to your heart, the ones you did away with in order to conform. To ensure your own survival, you hush them. Finally, awakening involves bringing them back to their homes, providing them with a sound, allowing them to mold you rather than putting you down. This is the job that has to be done. The path is as follows, and there is no end to it. To put it simply, you are not present to arrive. Throughout your time here, you will continue to develop. You grow more complete, more rooted, and more real with each layer that you peel away, with each truth that you assert, and with each lie that you stop telling yourself. To put an end to your search for someone too. I will save you because you have at long last recalled who you belong to. A soul that is old, infinite, and untamable. Not a victim, not a role, not a project that needs to be fixed, but a soul. In addition, that soul has been waiting for you to wake up for a very long time, not just once, but completely. The decision is now entirely up to you. Are you going to go back to sleep, or are you going to burn? Destroy the illusion with your fire. The roll should be cut through. Conquer the fear that has been holding you back a minute. That is because there is something holy that is located on the other side of that fire. Rather than heaven or perfection, completeness is the goal. The completeness that can be found in, not taken away from you in any way. The kind that is not dependent on anything that is external to you personally. The sort that emerges from within, unspoken, powerful, and powerless to be stopped. The vast majority of individuals never discover it. It is not because it is unavailable. Rather, it is in the fact that they refuse to accept it at the threshold. They require evidence before they take the plunge. They do not trust unless they have received assurance. On the other hand, the soul does not function such. The soul is only able to communicate through paradox. To get to the earth, you have to leap. You have to have faith in order to see the way. In order to be free, you have to give up. And all was surrendered in that moment. Changes is not all at once, but rather gradually, organically, and unwaveringly. You start living your life based on the truth. From a state of quiet, you start to talk. You start to love without worry or anxiety. This is the revolution that is taking place not from the outside, but from within. The revolution that Jung was referring to when he said, "Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens." You were born with the intention of awakening. Absolutely not just once, not even halfway, but in its entirety. On the other hand, it involves letting go of the person you believed you were in order to develop into the person you really are. In light of this, if you are listening to this and you are feeling, give in to the draw, the anguish, and the fire. Allow it to take you. It will strip you naked, let it bring you down, because you will only be reborn through the process of undoing it. Not as a more superior person, as someone who is not someone higher, but as someone who is true, someone who is whole, someone who no longer needs to prove anything, and someone who no longer questions, "Am I enough?" Because you come to the realization that you were never intended to be anything other than what you are. You were never intended to be flawless in any way. You are in a position to be genuine. You are destined to be in this location. The place is holy as well, despite the fact that it is painful, even when it is dark, and especially when the sun has set, mostly due to the fact that the gateway is that darkness, that silence, and that dreadful stillness. As you pass through that threshold, your soul is waiting for you on the other side, not to save you, but to bring it to your attention. It is not a trap for you. It is not a lost cause. In essence, you are letting go of something that was never yours. Moreover, what is left is the person that you have been your entire life. How are you doing? Moreover, now that you have arrived to this edge, which is not the edge of awakening, but rather the edge of yourself, how do you feel? You're going to experience one last urge to become numb. That one would choose comfort over the truth. Even if your spirit is whispering that there is more, this is the last time you will say that this is enough. There is no demand in that hushed whisper. The act is a calling. In addition, callings are not always welcoming. It is not always easy to understand them, but they're always accurate. Their origins are not rooted in ambition, ego, or the need to be seen. Rather, they originate from the depths of the soul, which are aware of the reasons why you have arrived here. It is not your intention to behave well here. You came here with the intention of being accepted. This is where you came to develop. You came here to reflect on the past. You came here to explore the uncharted territories of your own mind. And you came here too. Your voice, your might, and your fire are all things that you should retrieve from the past. You came here to reconcile the inconsistencies, to contain both love and fury, peace and chaos, divinity and shadow, and to name it wholeness. You came here to integrate the paradoxes. Awakened people are responsible for this endeavor. Instead than attempting to transcend the world, the goal is to become so firmly rooted in the soul that the world cannot shake you. It is not to rid oneself of suffering, but rather to discover purpose within it. Not to seek out light, but to carry it with you even when the night is at its darkest. Also, when your former self comes back to put you to the test, to entice you, to If you're pulled back into numbness, you will not despise its presence. You will not be ashamed of it. It will be to your credit that it took you to this place. And then you will make a new choice, one that is not flawless, but one that is honest. That is the only thing that awakening ever asks for. The pursuit of honesty, not perfection, is the goal. Sincerity that will shake your very soul. The kind that, when no one is looking, has the ability to declare, "This is who I am," one that does not require a stage, a title, or applause in order to be successful. The kind that is able to stand naked in the mirror of the soul and declare, "I remember now. I remember what it means." And when you live from that place, you begin to notice the sacred in everything. The way that grief softens you. The way that silence speaks louder than noise. The way that your own wounds become bridges to the hearts of others. You stop rushing. You stop proving. You stop trying to fix what was never broken. You meet life as it is, which is not how you were taught it should be. And I remember what it is like to be alive. I remember what it is like to feel everything. I remember what it is like to carry both pain and beauty in the same breath and still rise. From that meeting, love is born. Not the fragile kind that needs validation, but the fierce kind that can hold space for all of you. Even the parts you thought disqualified you from love, especially those parts. Because now you know the shadow was never your enemy. It was your invitation. And accepting it didn't make you weaker. It made you whole. So the next time you feel the silence pressing in, the next time the darkness wraps around you, don't resist it. Don't flee. Sit with it. Listen. Let's speak. Let it show you what you still fear, what you still cling to, what you still haven't forgiven. And then release. Not with force, not with effort, but with trust. Because what is meant to fall away will fall. And what remains is what was always yours to carry. You're not here to be someone else's version of awakened. You're not here to follow another's map. You're here to become your own compass, to walk your own labyrinth, to listen to your own soul above the noise. And if that means walking alone for a while, walk. Walk. With tears. Walk with doubt. Walk with trembling hands. But walk because stillness is not safety when it comes from fear. Movement is sacred when it is honest. Even one true step forward in your own direction is worth 1,000 miles walked pretending. And that one step taken in truth will open doors no map could ever show you. So let this be the final truth. You are not trapped. Not by your past. Not by your fear. Not by your wounds. You're only ever trapped by your refusal to listen to what your soul has been whispering all. You will hear the voice that has patiently waited beneath every false identity, beneath every mask, and beneath every performance. Such a voice is your essence. It does not yell or beg. Rather, it simply says, "Come home." And when you finally listen truly deeply and without interruption, you will hear that voice. Make your way back to the fire. Come home to the peace and quiet. Get back to the suffering, the power, the wildness, and the wisdom that you have. Visit the version of yourself that does not require any repairs. It merely needs to be remembered. And you'll be aware of the situation when you arrive, trembling but still alive. Fact that the majority of people never come to understand. It is never intended for you to remain asleep. This was the perfect fit for you. You were born to awaken thoroughly, even if it causes you to feel pain. In particular, if it is on fire.